John Jastremski and Chris LoPresti here now for Sound Off before Sunday's games, guys. Mets owner Steve Cohen met with the media as rumors continue to swirl around J.D. Martinez and the team. Cohen was asked about the Mets' chances to add more players.
My job is to support David and the baseball ops and the team in any way we can to make the playoffs. That's not my decision. That's David's decision, you know. And obviously, if there's something to do, he'll present it to me. And otherwise, you know, the club looks good, and you know, we're 2 weeks away from, actually 10 days away from the first game, and so it's getting a little late to add.
All right, JJ, based on that, do you think the door is closed to the Mets making any changes to their roster before opening day?
I do, because you heard Steve Cohen say it's David's decision, and he's going to back what David Stearns wants to do. I don't get the sense, and I don't get the feel, all of a sudden, with 2 weeks before the start of this season, the Mets are going to do a complete about-face for what their plan is at DH. Now, for what it's worth, I don't trust Brett Beatty at third base. I don't trust Mark Vientos to be the everyday designated hitter. But I think the Mets, and specifically David Stearns, want to give those young guys every last chance to go and see if they can be the guys. Therefore, J.D. Martinez, veteran bat, you don't want to tell me Brandon Belt comes here. I could see that. I don't think they're going big on a guy like J.D. Martinez. That's my feeling.
By the way, I failed to point out the festive necklace there.
There you go.
Aaron
Festive weekend for you.
All right, absolutely. All right, so as for what the Mets do have on their roster, Steve Cohen had some thoughts on how they've improved.
When you talk to the players, they say the defense is going to be, you know, so much better than last year. I mean, last year we were given 4 outs in an inning. And so, you know, I think you can see it. You know, we're in almost every game in spring training, and I suspect that's the way it's going to look during the season. And if you're, you know, if you have good defense and the relief pitching looks pretty, you know, pretty strong, looks like we have a lot of depth there, which means we're going to be in a lot of games. And if you're in the game, you got a chance to win.
CeeLo, what do you think? Could this team have some strengths we're not really talking about?
I mean, possibly. Let's just point out, number one, nobody cares about the results of these spring training games or what's happening there. A lot of them, he's referencing scores being close in games. You're seeing guys that are not going to be on the big league roster, so we can toss that aside. If all things go according to plan and guys remain healthy in the outfield, you would think defensively they should be a little bit better. If Starling Marte can get back to being more the 2022 version of himself than the 2023 version, you kick Nimmo over to left. He's a good defensive outfielder. We know what Harrison Bader is when healthy, but staying healthy has been a big issue for him. So you have to then look at the depth behind them and what do they have should one of those guys go down. And I don't think there's anything that you feel all that great about. I do agree on the bullpen. Look, it can't be a lot worse than last year. Getting Diaz back healthy certainly helps, but some low-risk, high-upside moves, some guys that at least can light up the radar gun a little bit better than we saw a year ago. So whether that translates to success, I don't know, but I do think they have a little bit more. They're a little bit more well-equipped in the bullpen heading into the year.
Of course, we all remember when Steve Cohen bought the team, he said he'd be disappointed if the Mets didn't win a World Series in 3 to 5 years. Heading into season 4, he was asked about that.
As I'll say it, and I'll say it again, I said I'd be slightly disappointed, okay? Okay, so just let's clarify that, okay? You know, but in the end, you know, you got to set big goals. And otherwise, you don't set big goals, you're never going to get there. And we may not get there. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. It's really hard to win a World Series. I mean, some of the best teams in baseball that we've seen over the last 10 years have a hard time winning the World Series. And so, so the whole point is to be competitive, be in the playoffs, be there every year, and give yourself the best shot. And, you know, good things can happen.
All right, JJ, how would you assess the Steve Cohen era so far?
Work in progress. I think that's the way you have to look at it. I understand Steve Cohen loves the idea of setting lofty goals. That's great. But New Yorkers remember statements. That's what it boils down to. So I'm sure there are a lot of Met fans who are going to remind Steve Cohen when they see him on the street, hey, Steve, 3 to 5 years, I'm waiting for that World Series. But I think what the owner has realized is what he just alluded to in that soundbite. It's really difficult to win. You can go and spend a boatload of money. The Mets have done that. They signed Max Scherzer. They signed Justin Verlander. And last year they were sellers and they were a sub-500 baseball team. They're trying to build this the right way. They're trying to have minor league players come and really make an impact on the big club. And we know they're going to spend big money, whether that's guys next year, the following year, whatever the case may be. But I think it's a work in progress because we're still waiting to see what the Steve Cohen well-oiled machine looks like.
Yeah, look, it has to be disappointing from the standpoint of what they did a couple years ago. They brought in Buck Showalter. They spent all the money, and it didn't even get them outside of the wild card round. So I agree. There's a randomness to it, World Series-wise, making a deep run. We'd like to see a little bit more for what you invested into the team, a little bit more results. As far as the lofty goals and the expectations and the owner saying that, that's fine. It's not like a manager or GM say, hey, we're going to fire you because you didn't meet these expectations. He's the owner. He's going to continue to spend money. So from that standpoint, I don't get too worked up about what he said 5 years ago.